this video, I'm going to be talking about Anki and how I'm using it in medical school. And so to give a little bit of background, Anki is this platform that was originally created to help people learn new languages. So if we're trying to learn Japanese or Chinese and there's all these character sets and you've got to memorize all these new symbols, Anki was invented to do this thing called spaced repetition in order to help people more efficiently learn really large volumes of material. And by learn, I mean really kind of memorize in a way that you can memorize a lot and retain that information. And the way it does that is by basically showing you a card, not every single day, but just to the point at which you're almost about to forget it, but that helps it get deeper into your head. So like you'll see card A on day 1, on day 2, on day 4, on day 7, and then on day 14. And so that spaced repetition basically helps you be a lot more efficient in how you are memorizing a bunch of stuff. And so the way that you use Anki is very similar to the way in which you would use any flashcards. Basically, you have a deck of Anki cards, and there's different types of Anki cards. The ones that I use almost exclusively are called cloze deletions. And to give you an example of what cloze deletion looks like, it's this following. So basically, it appears like this, where you've got this thing that is blanked out, or you read it as like blank, and then you can have a picture and you can have some text associated with it. So you basically create your own cards and you can put pictures on them. And so if I hit the space bar right here, I can say whether or not I was able to know what that was when I was reading it. So contact dermatitis is red itchy rash caused by direct contact with something like a watch band or a ring in this case. And so if I was able to successfully get it, I would say I did good. If I didn't, I would say I need to see that again. And so basically, it really helps you kind of grade yourself. And so if there's something that's just not clicking, like you can put it back in that deck and not put it out, and you can choose basically how well you're doing stuff. So that's the way in which it's really useful. And so I'll give an example of how you can add a card to a deck. So if you click on the decks thing, you can create a deck really easily by just clicking create deck and then typing in a new name. And that's it. And it would show up here, and then you need to add cards to your new deck. So in this case, I'm going to click on this guy right here, and then I'm going to click on add. And so note how there's many different types of cards to choose from. Cloze is the one that is what I recommend. It is fill in the blank. And so that's the one that I stick with. So if there was something like another thing I needed to remember for this particular class or test or whatever, basically the way I would do it is as follows. So you have like a definition, so like fissure, and that is a linear cleavage of skin that extends into dermis with sharp vertical lines. And if I wanted to take a picture, I can literally just go on Google and copy this picture and paste that into here. And then if I double click the term that I want to blank out in my cloze deletion card, you can do that, and you can basically hit the hotkey that I use is Control-Shift-C on Windows, and on Mac it's Command-Shift-C. But basically what that does is it blanks out or closes out the word in your Anki card that you want to hide, so that when you see this card, it'll be blank, linear cleavage of skin that extends into dermis with sharp vertical lines. It'll show this picture. And so that's how you use this thing. And so when you hit the space bar, or when you hit, flip the card over, that's when you would actually see what your term is. So if you wanted to add it, you can click add, or you can hit Control Enter or Command Enter on the actual keyboard. And so that is how easy it is to add cards into a deck. And being able to associate pictures with these terms and help jog your memory is a really great thing, because it adds some visuals to the text. That's pretty cool. So that is how you add cards. That's how you create decks. And then if you wanted to edit something, so like let's say I was like, oh shoot, that actually wasn't called a fissure, that was called something else. If I click on this history button, I can go back here. It opens up this little window where I can just go in here and change this thing. So like, crevice, I don't know how you spell that, but just whatever. You change the text to be whatever you need it to be, and then you don't need to save it. You just hit escape and it closes it out. And so that's how you can edit cards in your deck. And then the other thing to note here about these closed deletion cards is you see how it's got these curly braces and then C1. I can have multiple closed deletions in a card if I just double click or highlight that text that I want to blur out or blank out, and I do another Command Shift C, it'll do C2, and it's the equivalent of basically creating two separate cards that have that in it. So you'll have two cards, blank linear cleavage, and then Fisher equals linear blank of skin. And so that's how you can have other ways of kind of repeating this material and having them make sure you've learned a separate element of this thing that you're trying to learn. So that's how you do it. If you turn this into C1, then it would be blank linear blank of skin. So basically you'd be forcing yourself to learn two of them. So hopefully that makes sense. But that is how you create these closed deletion cards and how you can use them and how you can add pictures, is literally just pasting it into this thing. So it's pretty slick. And then if you wanted to actually cram this stuff, which is what I end up doing most of the time because I don't actually get to do Anki the really appropriate way of like spaced repetition, is as follows. So basically, if you click on your deck and then you click on custom study, you can then check this little radio box, study by card, state, or tag, and I'm going to say review all cards in random order. I'm going to choose those tags, not going to have to put anything in here. And then basically what we have now is this custom study session where it's going to randomize every card in my deck for me automatically, and then I just go to study now, and it'll show me this thing that I haven't seen before, and I'm supposed to be able to figure out what it is. So I know that this one is going to be called a nodule, so I can hit the space bar, and it'll flip the card over for me. And so let's say I didn't get that, I would just hit again. If I got it, that's good. So I just hit that. And then this one is contact dermatitis, which is a red itchy rash caused by direct contact with something like a watch band or a ring. So that is how you use Anki and how you can shuffle your decks to review stuff. And I hope that this is helpful and useful. Another thing that's really powerful about Anki is that there's a huge community of people who use it, especially medical students. So it's not hard to find many other decks created by other medical students. So you can find, if you're able to, it's great, find someone else's deck who is really great at making Anki and who is making stuff that's relevant to your specific courses. You can save yourself a lot of time. I personally prefer to make my own decks because I think that's part of the learning process, is like making my own flashcards and then reviewing them. But to each their own. So that's going to wrap things up for this video. I hope it's helpful, and thank you all for watching.